Right now, there's 52% of the population of the voters of the United States who are going through exactly what you're going through. This is awakening at a very fundamental level of an entire aspect of the West that is actually all purposeful. It is all indication of the power of what just occurred in that election in terms of the ability to bring forward the new consciousness that's coming. And that Donald Trump is a perfect instrument for the universe that defies all people's standards and conventions and protocols, that without knowing it himself consciously is going to disrupt all that is still stuck and untrue, and maybe somewhat chaotic, but ultimately effective manner, so that that which is hidden can be revealed, and that which is an error can be corrected. This sense of why you couldn't sleep is because the amount of energy in the collective consciousness was so intense around that everybody who had any opening spiritually was being bombarded by the forces. And it's not just the United States, it's the world. So this is now the entire web, the internet, all our interconnection, the whole world, every part of the world, Africa, India, Middle East, South America, Australia, and every island, everybody knows about this. Everybody is aware. Why? Well, the United States has kind of held this whole thing together. And now it looks like it ain't going to be able to do that anymore. That's like mom and dad don't show up back home. And you don't know what the hell happened to them. That's what the world is. You don't think that brings energy in? It might feel like terror, or it might feel like the loss of your security or comfort, or it's the good time to convert everything to gold, rather than dollars. Whatever be your adaptation strategy to that doesn't make any difference. It's like you just woke up. And everybody I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people, I did a talk Tuesday night, the night of the election. And then every subsequent talk from Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are all about this. And the common characteristic is people who were in such dread and fear of Trump being elected suddenly feel this relief or resolution. It doesn't. I'm sure it's not true for everyone, but it is simply a wake-up call. The alarm clock just went off for the collective consciousness, for those who are open to it. You lost. You are no longer able to stay in the dream. It just rang and woke you up. And what's the nature of the difference between the sleep state and the wake state? It's energy. And then you wake up to what it is you've not been paying attention to, which is no longer assured. So that's what happens on the spiritual path. It's no different. Exactly. The awakening moment is usually initiated by something that terrorizes us or is very disturbing in some way, even if it's better than what we've known before, but especially if it's worse, it seems. So that's what's happened. And it does mean that you have a purpose, you have a role. You're holding something of the responsibility that all awakened people have on the planet right now. And that is to be awake. And in that awakened state, to recognize that this is purposeful, that it is directed somewhere. That was a samadhi moment, you might say, just like David was sharing. Just like 9/11 was a samadhi moment. That shock that reverberated through the existing agreement. So the collective consciousness just had a samadhi moment, and there has never, ever been a time where 7.2 billion people, or a significant percentage of them, partook in that Samadhi moment. Actually, consciousness was all along the force of evolutionary momentum. It was because matter wasn't capable of holding it, that it couldn't evolve any faster than it did. But now, consciousness is awake in a large percentage of mankind. And now, with the shift in consciousness, matter changes. Consciousness no longer has to wait for matter to catch up to it. Now, consciousness is changing matter so that matter can awake and evolve in a way that it was never able to evolve before. So whatever was created in existence up to now, due to this slow, error-prone, struggled unfolding of the evolutionary purpose, power, force, is now quickening, just as we've seen in the last 200 years since the Industrial Revolution. But now this quickening is unspeakably, and each will be continuously unspeakable relative to what we've known before, in terms of being able to predict what that would look like. We have just tapped into a small percentage of what's possible for the collective consciousness when it wakes up to itself. We each know what happens to us in our individual awakening, but can you imagine when the whole planet wakes up? What that would be? And that's what's coming. And there's nothing we need to do but understand, like the Gita, the nature of the event that happened, so that we don't go into our knee-jerk reactions to these things. And hold the space of that opportunity, and then orient our life to move into alignment within our own personal self so that we stay awake. We don't go back into some sort of curl up like Arjuna wanted to do, is go back into the woods and discard his bow and arrow and take on the sannyasi robes. No, we just stay in life, our life, exactly as it is right now. It's not necessary to go out and write letters to senators or any of this. The role you have to play will show up in your ordinary life. And it'll be for you to wake up to whatever rises in your life in a way that you went to sleep with before. This is to expand your awakened condition. Be willing to be uncomfortable, to not sleep for 3 nights in a row, to lose your ability to digest food comfortably, to whatever else that may happen in this process as your body becomes trained to handle more higher frequency of consciousness than it was used to before. To trust it, to welcome it, and to endure the process, because it is like a fire. When consciousness wakes up in the body, it's a fire, it's a burning, a feeling of burning, heat. That's the nature. It's uncomfortable for most. For others, it's incredibly blissful and wonderful. But for most, it's actually uncomfortable because we've lived a life in ignorance. We've lived a life addicted to our limited self, negatively or positively. So we have to go through a process of purifying the error of our adaptation. And then we become used to that burning. As a matter of fact, we develop a taste for it. Like a little kid I remember when I was a little kid, my parents everybody drank wine. It was half the family was Italian. They all drank wine. And as a kid, I was like, what's in it with wine? And I tasted it and it was like so awful. So I dunked marshmallows in the wine. And then I could tolerate the wine if I had it with a marshmallow. So you got to develop a taste for this burn. You have to climatize. Now, the universe may bring you your marshmallow, so you can be in the fire, and it makes it sweeter, or it makes it soothe you while it's coming, or it may be very wonderful. But mostly it'll come in as the raw. It won't be wine. It'll be whiskey, and then vodka, then white lightning. So you learn to develop this kind of tolerance by allowing it to come to and be with it as much as you can. So see, this is the new consciousness. It's not about us struggling as much to awaken. It's not about how accomplished we are in our meditation or our mantra or how good our teacher is, or it's just happening wherever you are now. if you can wake up to what I'm speaking to. And you can begin to get the right information about what is happening so that you can see that when it rises up in your day. Instead of running off to your way that you usually have done to avoid uncomfortable experiences. It's not something you want to be treated for. It's not something you want to stop. It's something you don't need to exaggerate it. You just need to allow it when it arises. And everything that comes that seems unbearable will actually be bearable. Even if you fight against it, you will learn to bear it, because what it's doing is expanding your vessel, your container, for this increasing levels of consciousness. And the more we can expand, the more we can allow this fire to burn, the more we can burn. And the more we become useful, not just for ourselves, or our daughter, or our relatives, or the people connected to us, or the people we associate with at work or in the community or whatever, but for the collective consciousness. And then we become more and more useful in assisting this current transition. It will then also empower the unwitting tool Donald Trump is, to be able to perform the actions that are consistent with the truth that he innately knows, but doesn't know how he knows. It'll start straightening it out. He'll start realizing, oh shit, I am now effectively, president of the world. It will come because there is something in him that was true. That's why he got elected. It wasn't that he was skilled or experienced or he had the perfect nature, as we all know. But these are relative superficial qualities. He had an authenticity, and that was his appeal. And one of the things you know about it is that tireless energy that he demonstrated in doing this. It didn't come from human sources, but it didn't come from the dark side either. And because of that disguise, the dark side didn't recognize him. They unwittingly chose him, and that will serve for their destruction. Because they think they're part of his group, their group, one of them. He's not part of any group. Okay, so that kind of lays it all out for you, right? And this is actually kind of like the job for every awakened person now, because what were the rules of your own enlightenment are no longer particularly relevant. They're outdated, because something is happening that's so much bigger than any one of us. We're like the cells in the collective body, where each cell starts waking up. The more cells that wake up, the more the body awakens. And at some point there will be a critical mass. And it will be an unspeakable event. And it will occur in this dimension of human entanglement, human history, human story, waking consciousness. Not going to just happen in an altered state. And then you begin to discover what I've discovered is the impossible, unspeakable wonder and awe existence is every moment of life. The incredible love and nourishment and support and intimacy and immediacy of being in existence, which is really not even us. It's the Supreme experiencing itself in existence as us.